last 11 weeks was for this race and trying to break 130. And I knew it was going to be tough, but I didn't know it was going to come down to seconds. When I turned that last corner and I saw 129 on the clock, I knew I was cutting it really, really close. And looking back, I made this a lot harder on myself than it should have been. So here was the race plan. I want to walk y'all through everything, show y'all some costly mistakes that I had, and maybe prevent y'all from doing the same. So going into the race, I had a pretty solid strategy. I just wanted to hold that 650 to 652 pace for the first 5 miles. Mile 6 was going to be a decent size hill, so I knew I was going to just try to keep my cadence but not up my effort. I didn't want to run really aggressive into the hill and then reach the top of the hill and feel gassed out. So I wanted to keep my effort and my heart rate around the same, and then on the downhill side catch up on the pace that I lost on that hillside. And the overarching plan was to negative split the race. So run the second half of the race faster than the first half. And also I wanted to use the sub 130 pacer group. And the main reason was I wanted to zone out a little bit during those middle miles before that hill and just stay with a group. Also, it was pretty windy that day. It was 15 to 20 mile an hour gust. So I thought in the open terrain, I could use some, stay at the back of the pack and let them take some of the wind off of me. So that was the plan going in, and it seemed pretty solid, but things changed very quickly. Showed up to the race corral, used the restroom, did some running, jogging, got into the corral, got about 10 rows from the start line, and I saw the 140 pace group, and I was looking around, never saw a 130 pace group. So I went and had a brief conversation with the 140 guys and asked them, hey, where's y'all's 130 pacers at? And they said, they took off sick today. I was like, oh no. So some of the pacing strategies that I had going in kind of instantly left. They just kind of blew up on me a little bit there. So I went out and I really was paying attention to that first mile marker, and it actually clicked right on when my mile marker on my watch went off. And so I was like, okay, good. I don't have to worry too much about the mile marker being ahead of me, and I'm just going to zone out a little bit, talk to some people, try to find some people in my time zone, and try to find some people trying to get sub 130 as well, and hang out with them and maybe create our own little group. There wasn't too many people around that pace. There was one guy that I met, Anthony, and we ran together for a little bit, but our pacing strategies were a little different. He took off around mile 2.5 or so, and I was like, well, I'm gonna let him go. I'm gonna stick to my strategy. So I zoned out until like mile 4, and whenever I hit that mile 4 marker, I noticed my watch went off, but the mile marker was a significant amount farther away. And I was like, uh-oh, that's not good, because on my watch and in my Garmin stats, you'll see I was sitting around that 650, 651 pace, or so I thought I was. And so then when I hit that hill at mile 6, I knew I was going to lose some pace. So crested that hill, and when I came through that first 10K, on my watch, I was around a 653 pace. But in all actuality, I was actually running about a 657 pace per the course and per the markers. So I knew I was in a little bit of trouble. I was behind the 8 ball. And so I had to start picking up the pace. And I kind of did some rough calculations, and I was thinking I'm going to have to run somewhere around a 645 for the rest of the race to make up for this error that I had in the beginning of the race. I could either panic or just try to start chipping away at that time. And one thing I did get right was the week leading into the race. My last taper week, I did reduce my mileage, but I kept some speed work, kept some pop in my legs, and I arrived fresh with strong legs. I did a slight carb load, but nothing crazy. I didn't want to show up to the line bloated. And so I think when I showed up, I felt energized. I wasn't heavy. And I think that did help me in the end. That was one of the things that I did feel like I got right for this plan. And then I knew that miles 7 through 9 were going to be faster miles, a lot of downhill during that time. So I took advantage of the downhill, opened my stride, let the gravity just pull me out, and I knew I needed to make up some time. So I did that. And then the real big turning point in the race was mile 11 to 12 and a half. I pre-planned looking at their elevation chart. This was the first year for the McKinney half marathon, and they posted their elevation chart. I'll put it here. And so I designed my race for that chart, and this race was greatly put together, and this was probably the only thing that was a little bit off compared to my elevation chart after I looked at the race. So mile 11 to 12 and a half was just a constant uphill that I hadn't really factored into my pacing strategy. And so by mile 12, that was my second slowest mile. It clicked at 7:02, and there was just no end in sight for this hill. And I was thinking, I got a little over a mile left. I just ran a 7:02, and that was me pushing the pace, trying to keep my leg turnover good. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to hit this goal. I mean, I'm going to try everything I can, but there was a point in time where I was like, holy moly, I'm hoping for some downhill. And that downhill finally came about mile 12 and a half. And that's when I just let it rip. And I used everything that I could, and that was my fastest mile, that last mile. Came through at like 6:37 pace. And when I turned that corner and I saw 129, I knew that I was going to hit my goal. And what a feeling that was.
The top 5 finish.
Yeah, Forrest.
Christian Chow from Prosper. We got Taylor Davis in the house.
And I came through at 129.40. I barely hit my goal, but hey, I hit it, and I overcame a lot of mistakes early in the race and had to run a lot faster in the end of the race than I thought. I did negative split a little bit more than I thought I was going to have to. But man, what a wonderful feeling it is to see this effort come to fruition. And so I want to go through a couple things, what worked, what didn't work, and kind of what I would do to change those things. So what worked was consistent training plan. It wasn't perfect, but I did get around 45, and the peak week was a 49-mile week. I did get sick in mid-February, so that did throw a little wrench in my training, but I think that's normal. Your show up as consistent as you can, and if you do have a sickness or do have something pop up, don't be too hard on yourself. That's just life. And my taper, I think I executed this taper just as good as I've ever executed a taper. I showed up to that starting line fresh, energized, and ready to rock and roll. And my fueling strategy also was very good. Pre-fuel, I did what I normally do, which was sourdough bread, peanut butter, banana, toast, and then I did 2 gels in the race. I used Go Gel from BPN, just the apple cinnamon. Those worked out fantastic. Didn't have any gut issues throughout this race. That was a huge benefit. I couldn't have lost any more time with gut issues, so that worked out great. And then one of the bigger things was I stayed calm whenever I figured out my watch wasn't matching the mile markers, and I ran a slower first 10K than I wanted to. Oh, what kind of surprised me and what didn't work was zoning out early without a pace group. Well, you end up getting off pace. So getting behind in that first 10K was a big thing to overcome, and I think if I would have stayed on pace earlier, I could have set a much better time. And also the elevation, I was unprepared for that mile 11 to 12 and a half. And so what I would change to fix these mistakes is I would turn off my auto lap on my watch, on my Garmin. I wouldn't let it hit at a mile. I would push my lap button manually at every mile marker, so I get an actual pace at what I'm running the course at. It's always going to be a little bit different. And then I think a big thing would have been drive the course. You know, whenever I go pick up the bib, do all the bib stuff, go through the line, see the venue, and then drive that race course. That would have knocked out that big surprise at mile 11 through 12 and a half for me. And then better pacing early. I did come out kind of holding the reins back, and I didn't want to go out too hot. And that zoning out just really crushed me. So then this next half marathon, I'm going to go out aggressive. I'm not going to try to be crazy, wild man, but I'm going to be a little more assertive and having much more awareness on the mile markers. And then lastly, none of this is possible without the support of my wife and my kids. It was a wonderful moment to have them there. They woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning to drive an hour and a half to support me in this race. So to my family, thank you so much. It meant the world to me that y'all were there, and I love y'all. And so from here on out, where I transition now is I'm preparing for my first ultra race, 50 miler, and it's also a trail race, my first trail race. So I'm doing the Leadville Silver Rush 50. So getting out of my comfort zone. I'm trying to be a consistent runner throughout this whole year, so I'll put a big race there. And then the key goal is I want to go sub 3 in December, January area. And so I want to be able to qualify or attempt to qualify for Boston. So a lot of big goals left. I hit my first big goal of the year, and I also want to thank y'all. If y'all have watched these videos or watched this series, man, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Because I know this has been a growing experience for me, and I'm hoping to get better and better. And from here on out, I think I might turn this in more like a vlogs type style. So we'll see how that goes. I want to buy some equipment so I can do a lot more recording intra-run to get some action type videos. But anyhow, thank y'all. I appreciate everyone that's watched, and I hope you are doing the best y'all can and crushing your goals. We'll see you next time.